Thomas, when did you realize in your life, and how did it change your lifestyle when you first knew that our beautiful horned God is the Lord of this earth, or at least a partial architect of this 3D construct?
Wow. That's a big one. I okay, like a lot of people, I was a rebellious teenager who, after leaving the church, decided to go find something new to fill that void, if you will. And most of what I found, I felt was complete nonsense. It was silly. It was, you know, moo wearing hippies dancing around in circles. It it wasn't my thing. And like a lot of people, I discovered the Satanic Bible. Now I'm a San Francisco native, so Anton LaVey was an institution in the Bay Area. Everybody knew who he was, and it didn't matter what bookstore you went to. His book was there, and a lot of times in the religious section. Surprisingly, this was way back when. And also as a child, many times I had gone past his house, the Black House, because this foster home that I lived in, the foster mother used to like to shop on, I think it was a Sears store or something like that, on California Street or just off California.
Mhm.
And that was where the Black House was. So often we'd pass by it, and most of the time she would clutch the steering wheel and her knuckles would turn white. And one time she goes, Tommy, an evil man lives in that house. And I thought, oh, intriguing. I got to learn more about this evil man. So, late teens, I picked up the Satanic Bible. Besides that, I'm also a huge history buff. I'm obsessed with his history, especially ancient history. And because of that, I was somewhat drawn toward paganism, but not, like I said, the moo clad wearing type, you know what I mean? The soft paganism. I couldn't deal with that shit. Uh, and also being mostly of Celtic heritage, I got into Druidism. And I, I quickly discovered that modern Druidism, to quote the title of one of my videos, is bullshit. It was created in the late 18th century in Britain when they were going through their Celtic revival period.
Mhm.
Uh, it's a lot of white clad people marching around Stonehenge on the solstice and the equinoxes and so on and so forth, mumbling nonsense. And then later on, it got a really strong hippie vibe during the 60s. And just like I said, being the history buff that I am, I I I wanted a form of Druidism that was more like the way it should be, or at least the way I think it should be. Nature nature is neither good nor bad. You know what I mean? There's none of that Christian duality shit going on in nature. And if you are a truly nature loving pagan, let's say, you got to accept the dark side. You really do. Otherwise, you're leaving out half of basically of who you are, the shadow side, if you will. In the ancient pagans, I mean, all what we know of the ancient pagan faiths, those gods were like human beings. They weren't like Yahweh or well, Yahweh's kind of a dick, but they weren't like Jesus. Let's put it that way. Pure and good and so on and so forth. Like an example, Odin, one of my favorite gods.
Mm.
Odin was a very, very dark god. He did some really fucked up shit to achieve what he wanted, and that was gnosis. above anything else. He was willing to lie, cheat, steal, kill, you name it. But in the, I think it was the 13th century, Snorri Sturluson, an Icelander, wrote down a lot of the early Norse tales, mythological tales in the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda. And what he did is he turned Odin into sort of a Norse Yahweh. You know what I mean? Because he was a Christian. But we should be thankful that he at least documented these myths and so on. But anyway, and that's how a lot of people nowadays see paganism, as there's a light half and there's a dark half and so on and so forth. And because of that, I felt it was important to inject the dark half back into it. You know what I mean? Because we're living in a society where there is that stark duality between the two. Hence, individuals lack wholeness. So, and also, well, we had, okay, how the sex started, the organization. We were caretakers on a winery in Northern California, just outside the Napa Valley, which unfortunately burned down in one of the many fires we've had here in California.
We lived on that property for several years.
We owned a bookstore and so on and so forth. But anyway, we put on events. We put on a pagan festival. And
it's painful.
Well, it was fun. Most of the people were really cool, actually. Even though, they were kind of fluffy bunny types. But still, they were pretty cool. And it wasn't long after that I was thinking, we need to give the horn god back his testicles, because their interpretation of the horn god was, let's say, the goddess's boy toy. You know what I mean? He wasn't that, he lacked an edge, let's put it that way. So on November 1st, 2011, we started the organization to basically to give the horn god back his testicles, if you will.